Amid the circular world of the offensive huddle, 10 men gather around the figure who will guide them through a defense and to the promised land of the end zone. This man is the quarterback, leader, and propellant for an offense. At the line of scrimmage, his command becomes their law, for an offense must realize but one objective: forward movement. And to this end, it is the quarterback who must deliver. Probing sudden strikes can dent, then seriously damage a defense. For these sprays tighten coverages and enable a quarterback to shatter a secondary deep. To counter the aerial exploits of the quarterback, defenders look to defuse the bomb before it can explode. Thus, the sack is the best pass defense there is. Facing the rush, a quarterback can either lose his head or else hope to slip the clutches of the rush long enough to air home a completion. A last-second release can pry open a defense, while perseverance will dismantle it. One quarterback who thrives despite a hard frontal assault is Oakland's Kenny Stabler. Three times last Sunday, Stabler withstood Green Bay Packer pressure long enough for touchdowns, which earned his Raiders an 18-14 victory. Utilizing the talents of receivers like Cliff Branch, number 21, Dave Casper, and Fred Biletnikoff, Stabler has carved his mark on secondaries throughout the league. However, unlike Kenny Stabler, who leads an offense with a cool and calculating precision of a veteran, Seattle's rookie signal caller, Jim Zorn, directs the expansion Seahawks with little more than a wing and a prayer. Both have been known to work for Zorn, but neither proved effective last Sunday, as 6 times the Detroit Lions intercepted his passes, returning 2 for touchdowns during a 41-14 Lion frolic. As Zorn faltered against the league's top-ranked defense, Lion quarterback Greg Landry excelled against the league's worst, shelling Seattle with 3 touchdown passes. But while Greg Landry was handling all the Lions' passing, San Diego's quarterback Dan Fouts was sharing his throwing chores with his friends. A Donnie Woods to Sam Scarber connection clicked for 1 Charger score opposite the Cleveland Browns, and Fouts lofted 23 other completions, including one to sure-handed Charlie Joyner for San Diego's other touchdown. Though Fouts rallied the Chargers to a 4th quarter lead, the Browns overcame them with a surprisingly polished performer of their own in Brian Sipe, who smartly directed Cleveland through the Chargers and to their 4th victory of the season. Taking advantage of talent like smooth-striding Greg Pruitt, Sipe channeled the Browns toward 3 touchdowns, 2 of which left the arm of Sipe and felled the Chargers 21-17. For Kenny Stabler, Greg Landry, and Brian Sipe, last Sunday was another step toward measuring themselves against the yardstick that gauges all quarterbacks: victory. To these go the glory. To the others, disappointment. Yet with the coming Sunday, all will be equal once more. as each must prove himself once again. One reason for the San Francisco 49ers' dramatic rise to the top of the NFC's Western Division has been the play calling of quarterback Jim Plunkett. But last Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons charged into the 49ers' backfield so fast, one might have suspected that the Falcons knew what Plunkett was saying in the huddle. But Plunkett's problems were nothing compared to those of Atlanta's quarterback. The 49ers lead the NFL in quarterback sacks. They crushed Kim McQuilkin 8 times and completely obliterated the Falcons' offense. The Falcons were so helpless in this game that they gained an average of just 1 yard per play. In other words, if you gave Atlanta the ball for 7 straight plays, it would be 8th and 3. I hope the 49er defense doesn't line up on the runway at the airport in front of our plane. We'll never get home, said McQuilkin. The punt team added to Atlanta's woes when this wayward center snap flew out of the end zone to give the 49ers a safety. For the 3rd straight week, the San Francisco defense refused to allow a touchdown. In this game, the 49ers defense made enough big plays to control the contest and eventually set up this touchdown plunge by Kermit Johnson. While San Francisco needed only a solid defense to gain a 15-0 win over the Falcons, the Minnesota Vikings' victory over the Philadelphia Eagles was a perfect demonstration of the multiple talents of the team. Fran Tarkenton used his pitch and putt passing attack to slice up the Eagles. He first got them thinking about flare passes to his running backs, then shifted his attentions to his wide receivers. Number 28, Ahmad Rashad, collected 1 pass from Francis for a touchdown. Then Sammy White, number 85, pulled in another for a 35-yard scoring strike. Defensively, Minnesota was so effective that this pass interception by Bill Bradley was Philadelphia's longest gain of the day, and it set up the Eagles' only touchdown. Chuck Foreman, the NFL's leading scorer, went through Philadelphia like the Metroliner, rushing for 200 yards. Foreman scored twice and led Minnesota to an easy 31-12 win. After the game, Viking coach Bud Grant said that watching Foreman on the football field was like watching a grown man play with children. Said Grant, "I've never seen a more talented player." Well, Baltimore coach Ted Marchibroda has. He calls his quarterback, Burt Jones, the most explosive weapon in the game. Last Sunday against the Jets, Jones backed up his coach's boast by passing for 300 yards and leading the Colts to their 6th victory. Jones, who is the league's highest-rated passer, threw 2 scoring passes to Roger Carr, number 81. "We didn't play that well," said Burt. In fact, the final score made the teams look more evenly matched than they were. Last Sunday in New Orleans, the Saints gave Rams starting quarterback Ron Jaworski a thorough going-over. The Saints had 5 sacks and held Los Angeles to negligible yardage through the first 3 quarters. Meanwhile, on offense, number 10, Bobby Douglas, relieved Bobby Scott at quarterback, and referring to his old Chicago Bears book of broken plays, Douglas completed 15 of 23 passes and carried the Saints to a surprising 10-10 tie in the 4th period. Number 34, Tony Galbraith, scored the only touchdown for the Saints, partly because New Orleans passers were besieged with 9 sacks, sometimes aided by their own blockers. In the 4th period, the Rams summoned Pat Hayden, who had been quietly recuperating from a concussion. Ron Jesse's catch was one of only 2 completions for Hayden. The others sailed 40 yards to wide-open Harold Jackson, and the Rams were able to remain just 1 half game behind San Francisco at the season's halfway point. In Houston, Oiler quarterback Dan Pastorini could find no place to hide from the AFC's top-ranked defensive team, the Cincinnati Bengals. Pastorini was grounded 6 times by the hard-charging Bengal Lancers, and he was also forced into 3 interceptions, one of which tilted things Cincinnati's way in the opening minutes of the game. Cornerback Ken Riley had the Bengals in perfect position, but it still took the acrobatic team of Ken Anderson and Isaac Curtis to score the touchdown. When Anderson left with a bruised hand, number 11, John Reeves, scored with his first pass of the day, a beautifully executed screen to tight end Bruce Coslett, number 88. The play of the game, and probably of the week, was started by the charge of Bengal defensive tackle Bob Brown. Defensive end Coy Bacon, who had 3 sacks himself, rumbled downfield until he finally heard the cries of rookie safety Melvin Morgan, number 21. The 80-yard fumble recovery clinched Cincinnati's 3rd straight over Houston, 27-7, and left the Bengals alone at the top of the NFL's most competitive division, the AFC Central. Number 80 is Denver's wide receiver kick returner Rick Upchurch. Last week, Kansas City coach Paul Wiggins said of Upchurch, "There is a point where respect evolves into almost fear. And with Upchurch, we got to that point." Steve Ramsey's Bronco offense broke out of a slump with 4 touchdowns against the NFL's last-ranked defense, but in a game of nearly 1,000 yards of total offense, the Chiefs' high-caliber offense did some exploding of its own. Despite a point-a-minute shootout, there was just one player who stole the show. Rick Upchurch scored on a punt return for the fourth time this season, tying the NFL record set in 1951 by Jack Christensen. Upchurch now has the whole second half of the season to try and set a new record. Final score, Kansas City 26, Denver 35. At Giant Stadium, rookie Steeler quarterback Mike Krutzik overcame the disguises and changeups in New York's pass coverages by outrunning his inexperience. Unfortunately, the winless Giants cannot outdistance their mistakes. Against Pittsburgh, they timidly went down to their 7th straight defeat as the steel curtain engulfed, then spit out their offense. Totally enfeebled, the Giants were shut out, a humiliation that cost quarterback Craig Morton his health and third-year head coach Bill Arnsparger his job. The resurgent Steelers were not awesome, just surgical and precise in the manner they carved up a New York defense that has been decimated by injuries. Pittsburgh played almost contemptuously, knowing they were going to win all the time. So they ran a lot, passed little, and won big, 27-0. At Orchard Park, the Bills and Patriots needed a fresh supply of sure grip as 11 fumbles turned both offenses sour. When there was continuity, quarterback Steve Grogan's rollout offense mystified the undermanned Bills. The threat of silky smooth receivers like number 81 Russ Francis make defenses respect Grogan's arm, but in effect pave the way for the planned runs that make the spindly general so doubly dangerous. In this disaster of a season for Buffalo, the headlines and statistics still belong to O.J. Simpson, whose victories over defenses are empty and Pyrrhic and muddied by a river of Buffalo defeats. Simpson scored twice against the Patriots, but the Bills lost 26-22. One runner whose fortunes were not on the wane was wondrous Walter Payton of the Bears. With over 700 yards rushing, number 34 tried to become the first man to catapult out of Texas Stadium. Held to 41 yards, Payton was hamstrung by the doomsday defense that cut off his escape routes and made him circumnavigate the field like Magellan on an uncharted course. Without Walter to worry about, Dallas looked around for a stationary target and drove a quiver full of hits into quarterback Bob Avellini, number 7. On the day, the Bears managed but 100 yards passing and running, while Roger Staubach orchestrated the many soloists in the NFL's number 1 offense. While Staubach rarely offers up his body to defenses anymore, he is still a high-risk quarterback, someone who will trade a bruise for a touchdown. Staubach suffered a fractured finger in the second half, and for the next 2 weeks, the complicated Cowboy offense will be directed by rookie Danny White, who almost turned a surefire win into defeat. White's indiscretions generated most of Chicago's points when an interception by Ross Brubaker ended in a touchdown by Mike Hartenstein, number 73. For 3 years, White was the trigger man for Frank Cush's pro-style attack at Arizona State, a place where quarterbacks who can't throw 60-yard bombs are converted into tight ends to toughen them up. Luckily for White, he is surrounded by a talented corps of specialists like Preston Pearson, number 26, who know their way around a pass pattern and are invaluable in the clutch. The Cowboys have a pair of backs who run and another pair who catch. Preston Pearson is a catcher, and his 2 touchdowns helped Dallas stay atop the NFC East at the halfway point, 31-21.